Welcome. We're excited to spend the next 20 minutes together talking about a topic that is just top of mind, but it's mission critical across healthcare organizations today, cybersecurity, resilience, and ultimately patient safety. Hi, I am Marnie Braze, head of marketing here at Anatomy IT, and I'll be guiding today's conversation. Think of this a little bit less than a formal webinar and more of what you would experience on a podcast. What we're going to talk about are real world insights, practical takeaways, and a little bit of perspective from the field. What I'd like to do is introduce you today to Jessie Crow, our Director of Solutions Design, and Zandy McAllister, one of our virtual CISOs who works closely with our healthcare organizations every day. Jessie, let's start with the big picture.
Yeah, thanks, Marnie. If there's one headline that I would like to anchor on, it's that healthcare continues to be one of the most targeted and most impacted industries when it comes to cyber threats. As one of Zandy's colleagues, Anatomy IT's Chris Petras highlighted in a post recently, we are continuing to see publicly reported breaches hitting record highs, despite years of investment in traditional security controls. And the reason for this, I think, is actually relatively simple, and that is that the playbook is changing. Attackers aren't just dropping malware or encrypting files for ransom. They're focusing on stealing identities, on exploiting access pathways, and increasingly coming up with clever ways to leverage AI to not just scale their attacks, but also to increase their efficacy. And really, one of the things that this brings us to is that for 14 years running, healthcare is the most expensive industry for cyber breaches at nearly $7.5 million per incident. Healthcare breaches take the longest to identify and contain because of the sprawl of data, the complexity of the information environments that we operate with. And every additional day that an attacker is able to dwell in a healthcare environment is another day for that data to be exfiltrated so that attackers can sell it and make use of it. Broader industry data shows some other concerning patterns. 2/3 of healthcare organizations currently believe that simple phishing and email compromise alone are already having measurable impacts on patient care. So we're not just looking at the financial ramifications of breaches. This actually has a direct impact on patient care outcomes. And on top of that, we also have many organizations that admit that they're really only barely meeting minimum resilience standards and that they are not truly prepared to address the rapid adoption of AI or the severe cybersecurity talent shortage, with about 90% of healthcare leaders saying that their organizations lack the security maturity that is needed for the new era.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Jessie. That's exactly what I'm seeing out in the field as well. A lot of the incidents today, they don't really start with something that looks obviously malicious. They start with something that is like a legitimate login, or they'll start with a trusted connection. They're well-crafted phishing messages. And that's what makes it most difficult for us that's what makes it difficult for organizations to really for them to really find it. The organization, the activity, it just looks so normal at first. And even though the intent behind that is not normal, it's not something that should be happening in an environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the proliferation of AI in cybersecurity attacks that we see, it is increasingly difficult for traditional defenses to really suss out between something that fully appears to be normal and something that is actually not, and that is truly malicious.
Yeah.
So, one of the biggest mindset shifts that we're seeing because of all of this, and that we regularly encourage amongst our clients, is that cybersecurity is no longer just about protecting systems. It's not about protecting technology today. It really is about protecting care delivery.
Yeah.
When in a healthcare environment, systems go down, we're not just talking about the dollars and cents losses to the organization. Because when systems aren't available, surgeries can get delayed, client records become unavailable, staff have to revert to manual record processes. And these are disruptions that have direct and measurable impacts to patient outcomes and in many cases to patient safety. And Chris had recently highlighted something that I really want to call out recently, and that is that healthcare data is uniquely valuable to a cyber attacker. It's not like financial data or other accounts that an individual might have that are accessible out on the internet. There is no reset for a medical record. Medical data is inextricably linked to an individual. And with all of the areas of the economy that information is tied into, and whether it's the healthcare providers themselves, healthcare insurance, pharmaceuticals, it's very, very valuable data. And it's one of the real reasons that that attacks continue to really target the healthcare space so aggressively.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And I think most healthcare leaders, they already understand this, and they understand it on a very practical level. The question is not only are the systems protected, it really becomes more if something goes wrong, can we still make the decisions we need to make? Can we care for patients? And recover in a reasonable way? Can we recover quickly? And that's absolutely correct, because the data is so unique.
Yeah, and really that does bring us to the root of the definition of cyber resilience, right? Resilience isn't just about stopping an attack in its tracks. It's about making sure that you can limit the scope of impact of an attack. It's about keeping operations running smoothly, both during the crisis moment as well as in the aftermath.
Correct.
So let's go ahead and ground what we're talking about in some of what we're seeing across some real organizations. Our first case study is a multi-location ambulatory surgery center group that is comprised of about 14 facilities. CSA Surgical Center came to Anatomy IT initially because they were facing a growth and a scale problem. They were growing and outpacing their infrastructure and their IT practices. They really needed centralized IT. They needed proactive planning, standardization, and they really needed to ensure that they had a way to continue scaling that wasn't going to put any of their facilities or the broader organization at risk to anything new, right? And that is a common challenge in a growing organization, is making sure that you don't open up gaps as the organization scales. So,
Sure.
so what did we achieve from this partnership? we were able to accomplish getting some standardization deployed across all of their different locations and achieve stronger support responsiveness and really start to lay the foundation in their IT practice that could adequately support their continued expansion as an organization.
Yeah, I'd also add that standardizing governance as well was key to success in that case study.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, strong governance frameworks help tremendously at reining in the complexity of operating across a variety of different locations. That's 100% true. Our second case study that I wanted to highlight is another ambulatory surgery center. This one has 2 locations, more than 90 physicians, but this engagement was a little bit less about growth and scaling as an initial problem, and was more about trust in kind of where the organization's IT practice was. Gramercy Surgical Center came to Anatomy IT because they were struggling with unreliable support, with weak SLA adherence, and some critical gaps in their backup and continuity plans. And after partnering with them, we were able to get a stronger backup and cloud continuity architecture with the critical standard operating procedures aligned with it to make sure that they were able to make use of that new technology. We were able to significantly improve response times, and most critically, the leadership there was able to find some newfound confidence in their uptime stability, as well as their recovery plans, their continuity, if you will.
Yeah, that's really fantastic that we were able to help in that way. We see the same pattern show up at the hospital level too. The same patterns are showing up over and over again, and it may look different on the surface. You see staffing challenges, you see 24/7 coverage issues, security metrics, you can see response planning, but the underlying issue is really the same, no matter the agency, right? The leaders are trying to understand where the organization is exposed. They want and they need to understand what needs to be fixed first, where the risk actually lies, where the gaps are, and what to prioritize. Because if everything is a problem, then everything's on fire. They don't know what to do first, and they still need to take care of patients first. So it becomes a real struggle, and the risk level, they really need to identify what is the largest risk and how can we care for our patients.
And it's interesting because there is a common thread that runs through all of these different scenarios, and that is that none of these organizations that we talk to, or those that we've highlighted here, are solving really traditional IT problems, right? They're looking at solving broader operational risk problems.
Yeah, that's right. Each of these examples, the turning point is really visibility. Once leadership can see the risk clearly, what's working, what's fragile, what needs attention first, they can make better decisions. They can prioritize the right work. Visibility is where the issue really lies. And that's one of the things that we can really help with, especially from like a VCSO standpoint. Everybody, you're right, like it's not a traditional IT problem. And that's one of the questions I get a lot. What do you do as a VC? Yes, I am in IT. Yes, I understand IT, but I'm really almost like a traffic director, and I'm pointing out risk, right? I'm over here directing traffic, pointing out the risks, and helping them to really solve operational risk problems in their environment, more than I am hands on keyboard fixing printers and you know installing endpoint protection, that sort of thing. It's not that traditional, hey, I pick up the phone and or answer the phone call of something's broken.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't have Zandy in your co-pilot seat right now, giving you advice yet, where do you start? We generally encourage leaders to focus on three different things.
Mhm.
The first thing that we want healthcare leaders to focus on when they're thinking about building out their resilience strategy is really to understand access. For decades at this point, we've been talking about this model of the principle of least privilege, which really is just understanding the minimal amount of access that you have to give an individual while still allowing them to perform their work responsibilities.
Yeah.
Right. In today's world, with the way that we are so heavily cloud leveraged, identity has really risen to the surface as becoming the number one attack surface because an individual's identity or their account is the key that opens up the doors to most of an organization's data and their workflows. The second thing that we want to focus on is around improving detection. And you said this earlier, Zandy, with your comment about visibility, right? It really all starts with visibility and understanding what's going on. We want to move beyond simple prevention, and we really want to start investing in detection and response capabilities, whether that's endpoint detection and response or EDR, whether it's identity threat detection. We want to make sure that these things are backed up by continuous monitoring 24/7, and that we're not just relying on machine learning or AI systems to do all the work for us, but that we have trained security operations center professionals that are providing that critical analytical element to ensure that we are on top of anything that comes through.
Yeah,
And then the
absolutely.
third, sorry, did you have something to add, Zandy? I didn't mean
No,
to cut you
I'm
off.
just agreeing. I'm the choir.
And then the third thing that we really want to make sure that we're looking at is aligning your organization's security program to your business risk and continuity program. Because cyber risk is not just an IT silo anymore, we need to make sure that our cybersecurity risk program aligns with things like patient care outcomes, with regulatory compliance requirements, with revenue operations goals, and ever more importantly, client and investor perception.
Yeah, and this is really where that VCSO role becomes valuable, really, really valuable. We really help to translate that technical risk into business decisions for your leadership. What's not just translating that technical risk into the business decisions, but something that the leadership can actually action, something that they can act on and determine what needs action, what risk it creates, and how to prioritize it in a practical, realistic way, not in technical jargon, not in something that you need to do 36 months from now. Yes, of course, we want a roadmap, right? Road mapping is very important, but what needs your attention right now? What can wait a little bit? And how to prioritize that financially as well. What is when we're doing this as well, we're looking at it as these are the risks that are before you. This is what needs people resources. This is what needs time resources, and this is what needs your financial resources. And then how to mitigate those issues as well. This is what you can do about those. This is how you can either transfer the risk, or you can accept this risk, or you need to do X, Y, or Z with these risks. And helping them to understand what it looks like and what they can do about them.
Yeah, that's a really good breakdown. And it really is just true that the devil's in the details, right? If
For sure.
if you zoom out, all of this kind of complexity actually leads to a simple, but I would say a somewhat vexing conclusion, and that is that there really isn't a single solution to deal with this, right? There is no silver bullet or panacea. Um, Real grounded cyber resilience requires a layered and multifaceted approach. And that approach includes a variety of different things. Many we've already discussed: identity security, endpoint detection, 24/7 monitoring and response. That governance and strategy that you highlighted earlier, and critically that executive alignment. The goal here is to be able to implement a resilience program that is practical and scalable and aligned with patient care outcomes.
Yeah, and realistically, many healthcare organizations, they don't have the internal resources to build and manage all of these layers on their own. That's where we can come in at Anatomy IT's vCISO services, and we can help. We can connect the technical pieces back to the leadership's priorities, their risk, their compliance, and their patient care.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a really good lead into our final topic for today. Here at Anatomy IT, our goal is to help healthcare organizations to build that resilience in a way that is practical for their organization and their goals, where they're at in their journey right now, that is scalable, and that is above all else aligned to patient care outcomes. We are the preferred partner across the healthcare industry, regardless of the nature of your practice or what sort of organization you're operating, as well as in other highly regulated non-healthcare industries. And really, all of this comes down to what the Anatomy IT advantage is. We have built our practice for multi-location healthcare organizations over nearly 4 decades. We pioneered the fractional CIO. We delivered the first computer network in a surgery center. And we've spent a lot of time building a proprietary framework to help keep your IT infrastructure healthy. Our team of experts helps to lower cost, reduce risk to the organization and to your patients, to boost productivity, with the end goal being that care delivery is always on. I'll send it back to you, Marnie.
Thanks so much, Jesse and Zandy. I've really learned a lot through this process. I never thought about being a traffic director, Zandy. I really like that. I'm going to keep that on my radar when I think about your role and others. And operational risk is tough, and you talked about that, and just hearing about the different client examples always makes it ring true. And when you start to think about where the technology plays a role, but the human side is so true, right? Where you need people to really look at the technology, look at the situation, assess it, make those decisions that are going to affect the patient care at the end of the day, right? That's what we're all here to do, to make sure that people are cared for. And there is a certain level of hands-on, right? It isn't just sitting at our keyboard and our computers every day. we really need to be looking out for people. So, our company, we have resources online. Some companies can do it all, others need to look for support. And so we've got webinars, we've got insights, guides, HIPAA checklists, all kinds of things. You can go online to learn more. You can watch more webinars from us. You can also schedule some time with our healthcare experts. Dive in, see where you need some support, see how we can help you with your journey, see how you can become more cyber resilient, where you could benefit from somebody like Zandy to come on site and support you, see where, we can help you, just really take your practice to the next level. So, with that, we'll just really wrap things up and, here are some references. Just wanted to put those out here that we mentioned in the beginning, because there's nothing like having some great data to keep it real and, come back, see us again. Thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate you spending this time with us.